this video, I will show you how to set up your AutoFluent system so that your employees can punch in and out of a time clock and you can track their hours worked, overtime earned, and paid holidays. To get started on your Timeclock setup, navigate to Setup Entry and click the Employees button. On the Sales Reps User Login tab, you can assign which of your employees can be set up as time clock managers. A time clock manager will have the ability to edit time clock punches, run time clock reports, and send messages to time clock employees. You will need to save your changes and restart AutoFluent for those changes to take effect. If you have not set up labor departments in AutoFluent and want your time clock employees to be assigned to a labor department, you'll need to first go to the Scheduler Setup tab and create any needed labor departments. If your scheduler has not been set up yet, there is a training video dedicated to the scheduler setup. Before you can add time clock employees to the system, you will need to configure the time clock. Click on the Timeclock Setup tab. In the Store Hours section, enter in the hours of your shop. Next, set up your time clock departments by clicking New, entering a department code, and selecting a department manager from your list of previously entered employees. You may want to double check that you have given the department manager the time clock manager permissions as mentioned previously. Next, you can configure your overtime rules and at what point during a workday the overtime hours apply. You can also enter the day of the week that you want to set as the first day of the work week for overtime calculations. You can also choose whether you would like to round off the punch times or not. Finally, you can enter in the days of the year that are designated as holidays and whether they are paid holidays or if the shop is closed on the holiday or not. Make sure to save your changes and restart AutoFluent for the changes to take effect. Now we are ready to set up our time clock employees. Click on the Time Clock Employees tab. For each new employee that you want to enter here, add their initials, name, time clock department, labor department, password, hourly wage, and overtime rules. You can also enter their weekly schedules and how many work hours are included in their scheduled time on the job. The passwords in this interface are not case sensitive. If the employee punches into the time clock at a different time than their set schedule shows, their time clock report will show how early or how late they were at each instance. You can have an employee that is not set up to log into AutoFluent still be set up as a time clock employee. If the employee has both a user login and is a time clock employee, it is suggested that they have a different password for each login. If you are entering more than one time clock employee, you can both copy and paste schedules set up for other employees to save you some time. Make sure to save your changes and restart AutoFluent when done. Once the setup has been completed, an employee can punch into the time clock whether someone is logged into the system or not. They will need to enter their password before punching in or punching out. To punch in or out of the system, your employee simply needs to click the time, select their name, enter their password, and click the Punch In Out button. Then click Punch In or Punch Out. The employee will be able to view their punch history by clicking this button and entering a date range. They can also send an inter-office message to any other user or users. This is typically used to let time clock managers know when a punch was missed or otherwise in need of editing by a manager. They can also enter any time they had to take off by clicking this button. As a time clock manager, you only need to be logged into AutoFluent to access the time clock. Once you have entered the time clock, you have two buttons available only to time clock managers: Edit Punches and Time Clock Report. Clicking the Edit Punches button will allow you to select a time clock department and a date range. Clicking on each employee will show you a list of all time clock punches in that date range. As manager, you can then either create a new punch for an employee, delete an existing punch, or edit an existing punch. If you click Time Clock Report, you have 4 reporting options available to you. If you choose Employee Schedule, you can generate an employee schedule based on department or employee, as well as choose to show wages or print just one employee per page. The Time Clock Report will show each date punched in by each employee over your selected date range with the total hours worked, whether they worked more or less than they were scheduled to, and their earnings per day split between regular hours and any earned overtime or holiday pay. The time clock summary report shows a one-line breakdown of each employee's wage earnings as well as commission and spiff earnings, total hours worked, and labor hours assigned to them. The time clock with punches report lists each day selected to print when running the report and each time the employees punched in and punched out on that particular day.